Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ah, fantastic. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. We're just waiting for a couple more people. We start at 11, but sometimes it takes a few minutes for people to get on and turn on their sound and whatever else they need to do.
Yep.
Just before we start, can I just make sure you've got a spoon?
Got two. Is that all good?
And just a little bit of water to wet the sphagnum moss.
Yep, I've got that.
I've just got a little bit of paper here, a takeaway, like something from a mail out from the post box, just to make, I'll just go into this hand here so you can have a look. Wait a sec. There we go. There we go. So I can just make a little funnel. So if you've just got a little piece of takeoff,
okay, yep.
Just a piece of paper. I'm just trying to get, there's the angle. I've just made it out of, that can help when we're putting down the pebbles. So if you just grab a little bit of paper, that's quite handy too.
Yep. Okay, cool. I'll go and do that.
Okay, and here's some more people starting to turn up. So here we go.
Okay. All right, I'll go and get the paper.
Okay. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. I can. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello.
Hear you, no problem.
Oh, fantastic. It's impossible for me sometimes to know if people can hear me or not. Just before we start, we're just waiting for a couple more people to turn up.
My other guests aren't here yet, so.
Oh, okay. Have you got a spoon?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you'll need a couple of. Are you with the 3 people? Is that right?
I am. There's meant to be 5 of us, but one's actually unfortunately sick.
Oh no, that's no good.
Yeah.
I could probably send you the tape of this if you like.
Yeah, that would be lovely too.
It might take me a bit of time because unfortunately my Google Drive is so clogged up with Zoom meetings that sometimes I can't get space. And gradually they come off the production line, but we'll come to you gradually, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Pamela.
That's okay. And so you need a spoon, but you also just need a little bit of water in order to wet the sphagnum moss.
Yep, I've got all that.
Yeah. Now we've got somebody else in the class, so obviously we can't wait too long for everyone, but I can go through it again at the end or.
Yeah, totally.
So do you think they're nearly there?
They should be. I will just send a quick text and see where they.
One other thing to have, a pair of scissors is always handy. It's not 100%.
Okay, I'll get
some scissors. That could be good. And some pieces of paper. Are you there, Teresa? No, Teresa's just gone to get something. Okay. We're just waiting for a couple more people, Elaine, and then we'll get started. Where are you, Elaine?
I'm in Warunga in Sydney.
Ah, right. Okay. And how are your plants faring? Have they come... They're surviving okay?
I don't know. Shall I open them? I didn't.
Yes, that would be good. I can't spotlight you. It used to let me spotlight you, but now it won't let me. Maybe because you don't. I don't know what it is. I can't see close up. I can only look on the tiny image of yours, but are they looking fine?
Hang on just a sec. I'm just trying to
just cut them out.
Yep,
that's how... okay.
That's how they're looking. Can you? I think they're looking all right. I think they're starting to. I think they need to be planted out. They're sort of looking.
Yes, I mean, if they're a little bit dehydrated, they'll look a little bit wrinkly.
Yeah.
But as soon as you put water on, in about 4 or 5 days, they should come good. Right. If you have any problems with them, just send me an email and I'll send you some replacement plants if there's a problem. But it's very hard to calculate now because it used to be you'd put something in the courier system, it'd take 3 days maximum. And now I've had people having parcels missing for 4 weeks at a time. So it seems like it must be more people are posting. It's getting crazier and crazier. So I tend to post a little bit earlier than I would like. But anyway, but they should come good after. Usually when you water them, it takes about 3 or 4 days for the leaves to plump up again.
Right. Okay. Sure.
If they're not if it's not mulch, you should be okay.
Right.
We've just got some more people arriving. I can see at Teresa's. maybe. I think I saw someone. Teresa, the other thing is I've just got a little takeaway sort of thing, a mail out from my mailbox, just a little bit of paper so you can make a funnel. If you've got something like that on standby, that's useful. It's not 100% necessary if you've got no paper anywhere, but it can be very handy for just getting rocks into awkward places.
Okay, easily done.
Now, Teresa, how are your plants?
She's just gone to get something.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
Nina, Teresa's sister. Hello.
Hi. I'll just, I'll see if I can get the sound to go up. I can't hear people very well at the moment. Okay, so you'll also need a bit of water to wet the sphagnum moss. Maybe, Elaine, you might want to do that. We've got the sphagnum moss in one of the little bags. I tend to leave them in the bag if I can and just add a little bit of water to it. And that soften up the sphagnum moss. And we can do that just while we wait for Teresa's group to sit down and be ready. So you just wet the sphagnum moss. If you could, can you see my hands as the main image?
Yep.
Right. So if you just wet it, you can just squeezing it out. It will squeeze out a lot of water. You just want to make it so it's pliable. So what I've sent you is dry, and you just need to wet that.
Okay.
And then when you've wet that, we can just put that aside, ready for when we're going to use it. Just give me a yell when you're ready, Teresa.
Terrarium. Okay, Pamela, my terrarium.
You're in shadow there. Oh, there you are, Elaine. I couldn't see if that was you.
Sorry, I was
good.
getting
Oh, yes. So just if you grab that sphagnum moss and give it a squeeze out all the excess liquid. It's quite a lot will come out. And then I'm just going to put mine aside here on the mat. Another thing just to say is, just make sure you've got something protecting your work surface. If you've got some beautiful varnished wood or whatever, lots of water might not be so great. I've just got a bit of plastic here, which is absolutely fine. I'm not wearing gloves. We're not going to actually touch very much with our hands. But if you want to wear gloves, if you've got any, do feel free to put those on. Move that plastic bag out of the way. In your box, I'll just go through what's in there. You'll find you've probably got either a cork on a stick or a little bit of sort of blue polystyrene. We're going to use that as a tool to press down the soil. It's quite a handy tool because you can get it into small spaces. And if you do a terrarium afterwards, you can, or something with a much narrower neck, you can get in there with the cork or the little bit of blue polystyrene, whichever it is. We've also should have a brush in there. And that's good for every stage that we do. We tend to brush down because you get lots of bits of soil and little bits of moss and what have you. And it's very easy to get a brush in there just to wipe down and clean off any excess rubbish. Teresa, are you ready to go?
Yeah, we can go. The other one isn't here yet, but she'll get here and catch up. It's all good.
Okay, so just Teresa, if you could just get your sphagnum moss, which is maybe just wet that while we're just waiting for the others. You need to put a bit of water on it. You can open up the bag and put it in the bag, and then when you've got water in it, just I'm going to squeeze it here. You can just squeeze. You can't really see it there on camera, but you can see some drops going down. You just squeeze it out so it's nice and dry, but we're going to use it for one of our layers. So you have a nice garden there, Elaine. It looks like you grow lots of plants. Is that right?
What you're seeing is probably the hedge, yes.
Oh, okay. It's just a hedge, okay. But do you grow succulents at all?
Not outside, but indoors I have a couple, yeah.
All right, okay. So just you probably know if you've got some indoors, obviously they like lots of light. They like to have very little water, which is why I send them in the post, because they're the sort of plants that would survive very well in a journey. But they also do quite well in a terrarium as long as it's not a closed terrarium. If it's a closed terrarium, they'll rot, they'll get too damp in there, so that's no good. But in the terrarium, we're using succulents today, but you can put in ferns, you can put in other sorts of plants. They just need more water and perhaps more attention, more feeding. I like to use succulents because they don't need much nutrition. They like a poor soil. They're quite happy for a year or so not to have any fertilizer or nutrients, so you can go quite a long way with succulents, whereas other sorts of plants just take a bit more care. So succulents are perfect for beginner gardeners. Just before we start, these plants that I've sent you, I grow myself. I have a garden which has thousands and thousands of succulents in them. There's hardly any room out there, and I tend to propagate them by, for instance, if this is a plant I've got a little plant here in a tin can that's getting a bit tall. All I need to do, and I'll just show you how to propagate because it can be quite useful. I just need to cut the top of the plant off, or what I want to grow as a plant. If I leave it for a couple of days and let this stalk kind of scab over, it will be ready to plant. I just need to then stick it into soil, and it will start putting out roots. So a lot of these little plants that I've sent you, that's how they're propagated. But some of them are propagated just by the leaf. So I don't know if you can see on the camera here. Here we go. There we go. I've got a leaf here, and you can see there's a little baby plant just emerging on that leaf. So a lot of plants can start off just from a leaf, and all you need to do is, what you'll find is that sometimes these plants will start shedding leaves and people think, oh my goodness, the plant's dying. But actually, it's just trying to make babies. So all you need to do, if a leaf falls off, I'm just trying to get the camera's a bit awkward here, sorry. If the leaf falls off, you just lay it on the soil this way. You don't stick it into the soil, it will rot. You just lie it on some dryish soil. And in about, if you just walk away and leave it, keep it dry. If you walk away in about 4 to 6 weeks, about this time of year, it will start to make little babies on the end, and eventually they'll drop off like an umbilical cord, and you'll have a little plant. Here's one that was grown from a leaf. You'll get a cute little plant, and you'll have, just from the plants I've sent you, you can, go for years making more and more little plants, taking out ones that get too big for the terrarium, replanting those, and always have replacement plants, which is great news. Of course, you can't really do that so easily with other sorts of plants. It's succulents that will propagate by leaf. So they're really great plants to make terrariums with. I think we'll get started. As I said before, succulents don't like to be too wet. They like to be kept very dry. But I've sent you a container that doesn't have a hole at the bottom. It's sealed. But what we need to do because of that, it means that water won't drain through the hole, so it's harder to keep the plant dry as it needs to be. We need to make a drainage system. And to make a drainage system, we need to layer rocks, and we need to layer soil and charcoal and pebbles. So I'll show you how we do that. So the first layer that we put down, if you open up the bag that has the biggish pebbles in it, these ones here, if you open up that bag, that's the pebbles you want. You don't want to use the small gravel. You want to use the big pebbles, and that will be our bottom layer. And the idea of the bottom layer is that when you pour water to water your plants, the water will get trapped in this layer and keep the roots relatively dry. So any excess water will get trapped in this first layer. So the first thing we do, we'll use our spoon. I really recommend using a spoon because you can see I've got no fingernails. If you scramble around in the rocks a lot, you tend to chip your nails and it's not great. So I use a spoon as much as possible, and just don't throw them in, just place them in, because also if you've got a rock with a sharp point, obviously if it hits the glass, there's a danger of the glass breaking. So it's better to take it a little bit slowly, just place them very carefully, because it is quite easy to tap the glass, especially at the widest angle of the terrarium, and then you might get a hole, or you might just get the whole thing smashing. So I just carefully put this layer in. I don't know how many rocks you've got in each bag there. It varies a bit according to the weight of the package, but you've certainly, if you could put all of them in, but maybe not, you might have a little bit excess there. You probably need about 2 centimeters, it's a bit hard to see. I'll do it in this one here. Just about 2 centimetres is fine all round. So very careful. You can use your hands to put them in, of course, but it's much easier with a spoon. And I'm just putting my rocks in here, like so, my bottom layer. And one by one. Somebody's just turned up. Let's have a look.
We're getting sorted, Pamela.
Sorry? Oh, is everyone there?
We're all
Fabulous. Somebody else called Zoe has just turned up as well.
My daughter, she's at home with a cold.
Oh,
so-
she's with you. Oh, so she's doing it elsewhere. That's great. Okay, so she's joining up. So I'm just, as we're putting in that, I'm going to continue putting in the rocks, just waiting for Zoe. Can't see Zoe yet. What I can do, if we just get Zoe to do the first stage, and as I said, I can send you a tape about how to make these.
excellent. Thank you, Pamela.
So I'm just slowly putting in my rocks because I don't want to smash anything. And when I've got what I think is enough, we don't want to overfill the terrarium in these layers, because if we get too far up and we plant and our soil's all the way near the top, we've just got a pot plant. We want to try and keep as much as possible our plants below the opening. That's the aim. Sometimes some plants grow beyond that. Obviously, if your terrarium is going to be successful, it will grow, and they'll grow quite quickly because it's growing season at the moment. They have a period in the winter where they go dormant and they don't grow, but now is the season, the perfect time. And I don't know if you would do it, but I sometimes do it with a pair of scissors in your pocket, going around neighbourhoods and just taking cuttings of any succulents that are over the fence. I don't know if it's illegal because it's on public land. I never go into the property. And I also make it a rule that if I've got that sort of succulent, I don't do it. I do it for new varieties, spreading the succulents all around Sydney, or at least to my house. So now's the season to do it. So if you get into this, this is the perfect time to make a few hundred plants. And I know if you go to Bunnings, a small plant's probably about $5 to $8 just for one. So you can imagine it can be quite exciting to make hundreds of them. So I've just got my rock layer here at the bottom. Now, when we make terrariums, we often look down the top, like this view that you have here. That's an okay view, but actually when we use our terrariums, when they're finished, we tend to put them up on a bookshelf or on a table, so your view is more sideways. So while we make our terrariums, don't forget to pick them up and have a look at how they look on the side. And what I tend to do when I've got this layer down, I like to put my terrariums, it's just a taste thing, so it's up to you or not. I put them on an incline, so I make it a little bit less rocks at the what I call the front. I don't know if you can see here. And that will mean that when I plant my plants, I've got a point of view of where I'm going to look. I want to have my plants more visible at the front, so when I put it on my bookshelf or on my desk, I get this much more of a natural sort of landscape look to it. You can, of course, keep it very flat all round. It's up to you. But I like to have a little incline. So on one side, I don't know if you can see here, on one side, it's about 3 centimetres. When I turn it around to what I call the front, it's about 1 centimetre. Just gives it a little bit more visual interest when it's constructed. So that's our first layer. So just give me a thumbs up when you're ready for the next layer. You can just give me a visual clue or call out.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so the next layer that we put down, you've got a little bag there which contains, this contains charcoal. Now, it's good if you've got a pair of scissors to cut this open, is probably good, because obviously it's charcoal, it's black dust. You don't want to get that all over your clothes or your face or all over your hands. So I just cut mine open. Whoops, I cut mine open like so with a pair of scissors, and then it's relatively safe. Now, you're not going to use all of this. What we're going to do is sprinkle this charcoal in our terrarium. And this charcoal is not barbecue charcoal, because barbecue charcoal will have petroleum in it, which is not good for the plants. This charcoal is called horticultural charcoal or activated charcoal. It's been heated in big ovens at very high temperatures. And the idea is that anything organic in it is killed. And it works like the charcoal you put in a pair of runners to stop your feet smelling. The idea of it is to filter and deodorize the water as it gets through the soil, past the plants, through to the bottom layer. And the idea is, if we have this charcoal layer, the water that gets trapped won't become sort of smelly and like a pond. It will be it'll have a sort of antibacterial layer that it goes through. Now, you don't put a thick layer on, just a little sprinkle. I'm just sprinkling on here. Maybe half of the bag is absolutely plenty, like so. It's just to help keep things a little bit cleaner and less likely to go off. If your terrarium starts to smell like a pond, it's got too much water in it. So you know that smell, you know, if you go to Centennial Park on a hot day and the water's all drained away and there's a sort of muddy, horrible kind of murky smell, that's the smell. You don't want that. So you've probably got your terrarium too wet if it smells like that, and things start to, it encourages fungi to grow in the terrarium, and that will in turn infect your plants. And often one of the weaknesses of succulents is that they catch fungal diseases really quickly. So you want to just try and put some of this stuff down, this charcoal. Now you can keep this and use it for another one. If you use half, you've got enough there for another one. One thing to say about this sort of drainage system, we're using it in glass, but there's no reason why you can't use the same drainage system in a teapot or a teacup or any kind of container that hasn't got a hole. So it's a really useful planting that you can use, and you've probably got enough, you definitely got enough charcoal there to do another one after the class in an old teacup or whatever, if you've got some spare plants anywhere. So I've got my layer of charcoal there. Is everyone ready for the next layer?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so the next layer that we're going to put down is the sphagnum moss. And just before I do that, sorry, I should say, get your brush. You'll note that every time you put a layer down, little bits of goop, little bit of charcoal powder might form. It's a good time between layers to give it a bit of a clean. Hold it up to the light so you can see it, because it's very easy for stuff to get stuck behind things. And once you put all your plants and everything in, you won't be able to get it dislodged. Oh, Zoe's gone again, but Zoe's back again. I think Zoe might be having trouble.
The sound, and she's not feeling 100%. So
Right, yeah, she's gone out, but I think she's coming back.
Oh, okay.
So as long as I hope you're okay, Zoe. Hi, Zoe, there you are.
She is.
Hi. Could you hear me before?
No, I couldn't hear, but I can hear now.
Oh, okay. All right. So the first, just saying, while people, I'll just do this bit and I'll come back to you, Zoe.
Okay, that's cool.
So this is the sphagnum moss. This next layer we're going to put down is the sphagnum moss. And what we're going to do is just squish it with our fingers and just lightly put it down after we've cleaned up our terrarium. Just spread it across on top of that charcoal layer, like so. I'm just going to put it in there, across, just covering everything there. Again, you've probably got a little bit more of this than you need. And this is where the tool comes in handy. You don't want to put too much down. You want to keep it as thin as you can, about 1 millimetre or 2 millimetres, and just squish it down here with your cork, just to really compress it down. Sorry? Did somebody ask something?
You're breaking up.
I'm breaking up. Who am I breaking up for? Is that Teresa or is that Zoe?
No, not me.
No, neither of us.
Can you hear me? Is that Elaine where I've broken up? Elaine looks like she's frozen on the screen. I'm not sure. Everyone else is moving, but not Elaine. Elaine, sometimes, I don't know if you can hear me. If you
Yes.
you can. Oh, great. Somebody broke up, but I don't know who it was. No? Okay. So we've got the layer of sphagnum moss.
I might leave and come back again, Pamela.
Sorry? Is that Elaine? Yeah, I think Elaine's has gone. So she's going to go and come back, I think. Yes. Okay. So we'll just wait for Elaine. While we're waiting for Elaine, Zoe, your first layer should be the rocks. So
Yep.
you've got your glass, and the first layer with a spoon, put the rocks in carefully because it's really easy to break the glass if there's any sharp edges with the rocks.
Okay.
Yeah. So very slowly put your rocks in, and that's your first layer. And then just so we can catch up quickly, I'm going to send you the video of this afterwards so you'll see the beginning bit so you have an explanation why. But if you get your rocks down as the first layer, and then the next layer is charcoal. So put down the first layer of rocks. Next layer is that little bag of black charcoal. Cut that open. Be careful not to breathe in the charcoal or get it all over you. It's that little bag that's got black stuff. Here we go. There's Elaine. I'll just let Elaine in. So you've got your first layer of rocks, and then you've got your next layer, which is the charcoal, and then your next layer will be the moss. And with this moss I've sent you, you'll need to wet that to make it soft. Are you all right now, Elaine? Has it come back?
Yes, it has.
Great.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's sometimes, especially weekends, I think a lot of people's internet is a bit unreliable because everyone jumps in on the weekend. So it gets very busy and overloaded. I haven't had it happen for a while, but there we go. So yes, so Zoe, if you could just wet your moss with a little bit of water so it's nice and soft. You squeeze out the water so it's nice and soft. That will be the layer, and you'll catch up to us then.
Okay, cool.
So just to recap, because everyone's been in and out, we've got the layer of rocks on the bottom to catch all the water. We then have a sprinkle of the charcoal, the activated charcoal, and then we put on our layer of sphagnum moss. And as I said before, just try and compact it down a bit with your cork, because we want to leave as much space as we can to put in a layer of soil. As I said, if we put too thick layers in, we go right up to the rim, and we don't want to do that. So we want to put the minimum amount of everything we need, just the barest amount we need, so we have lots of space for planting. And as I was saying before, Zoe, to everyone, in between all these things, just give it a bit of a brush around just to get rid of any little fibers of sphagnum moss or any dusty bits of charcoal. And I'm just brushing around because it's really hard to get them out. Once all the layers are down, it's a bit hard to get any bits that get caught up. Another thing I do at this stage is where the sphagnum moss is, you also can go around the rim of, you can see me doing it here with my brush, just to press it down to make sure it's really pressed down there, because that little edge bit often gets caught up. So if I just press down with my brush, I've wet my brush, though that can sometimes be a bit dangerous, but I've wet my brush just to make it a bit stronger. We just want to go around the sides just to make sure that sphagnum moss isn't sticking up halfway. Now this sphagnum moss that I've given you is obviously dehydrated moss. If it's dark enough underneath the soil, and if it gets wet enough, it may well come back to life. So you might get a little layer of green moss growing under there, which is actually quite attractive. And looks quite nice. It grows very, very, very slowly. So the moss is never likely to overtake your terrarium. It probably takes a year or two just to grow about 1 centimetre, if that. So it'll might just go nice and green around the edges, which looks quite nice. More likely in the winter than the summer. So, and even if I left this sphagnum moss for 20 years, it still has the capacity to go green and grow again. So it's quite funny stuff. It's quite interesting to grow. You might see it in magazines where it's bright green. Often it only stays bright green if the conditions are right, and it's hard to get the conditions right with sphagnum moss. So often you see fashion shoots for things and they've got beautiful green moss. Very soon it will look like this unless it's kept in the right conditions, and it's a bit unpredictable how that works. Some people say if you want to get rocks with moss growing on it, put yogurt on it, get some yogurt and brush it on the rocks. And moss really likes yogurt. Make it face north, not south, and put it somewhere quite shady. And often, not often, but that's how people grow moss on rocks for bonsai plantings and different things like that. There's whole, I know I have a friend who does bonsais, and she went to a week-long workshop just on how to get moss to grow on a stone. So it's quite an involved thing. This moss, pretty simple kind of moss, sphagnum moss. So I've just flattened it out there. It's nice and flat. Is everyone ready for the next layer?
Sorry, is this the charcoal that I put in after the rocks?
Yes, it's a little bag and it's black.
Okay, and I just pop it in there?
Just sprinkle it.
Sprinkle it, okay.
Don't put all of it. You probably use about half of that,
Okay.
half of what you've got, and you can use the other half. I was saying before to other people that you can use it again in this system of growing plants is not just for succulents. All plants can use this drainage system in things that don't have a hole at the bottom. So tin cans, a cup, a teapot. It's a really good growing system for growing all kinds of plants in all kinds of containers.
Maybe that's why you're dying, Zoe.
Sorry?
Got a hole in the bottom. We need to do this to them, Zoe.
What?
Oh, if you've got a hole in the bottom, you don't need to do this. Just this fine.
Growing without holes in the bottom and they're dying, and that's probably why.
Yes, if you've got plants with something where they're dying and it hasn't got a hole in the bottom, you haven't got a good drainage system. With succulents, they basically drown. Too much water makes them drown. Where succulents come from, there's no such thing as an indoor plant. The only indoor plant is fungus, and that's probably something you don't want. The only sort of indoor plants always grow outdoors. Nothing grows indoors. And so what we're trying to do is mimic where they come from. And succulents come from the desert in Mexico, in South Africa, in different parts of South America. So they're desert plants. So that means we're trying to make a mini desert in here. So it can't have a lid. It's got to be kept as dry as possible. It gets watered like rainfall in the desert once every few months, gets a good soaking, and then it's another 6 months before anything happens. So what we're trying to do is make a desert in this one. So yeah, if there isn't a hole in the bottom, then it's not going to be the right conditions for a desert plant. So I've got my moss in there. We're ready for the next stage. Yep. How are you going, Zoe? You caught up?
Is
Right.
this moss?
Sorry?
That's my
Moss. You need to put a bit of water with that just to get it soft. Now our next layer, well, Zoe's just getting the moss in, and with the moss, just squeeze it with your fingers to make it flat and put it down, and then flatten it out with the cork like this. So our next layer is going to be the soil. And what we're going to do with the soil, again, using our spoon, is just put a very thin layer on first. We don't put all our soil in, because if we put all our soil in again, it will get too high. You've probably got enough for 2 or 3 terrariums in your soil. You just won't use the full amount I've sent you. So what we do first is we just put down about 1 millimetre of soil to start, and just very gently sprinkle it, because it's very easy to get it all over the side of the glass. So I'm just gently putting down that first layer. And you can see with my spoon, take your time with this, because soil will go everywhere, and we don't want too much soil. If you've got a couple of rocks, you might want to try and block the soil around the side to keep it looking more interesting. Like so. You can form a little bit of a wall there, and just keep the soil a little bit more contained, because very soon, it's very easy if you do this too quickly, all the soil banks up in front of the rocks. We want to keep the rocks a little bit on display. So if you've got these spare rocks sitting there, you might just position them, and you can see I've just done that to the side there. I've just positioned a few rocks just to keep the soil from getting in there, and it just looks a little bit better. Like so.
Just a millimetre of soil.
Ah,
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
we've just got somebody else joined, but I think it's too late for them to pick up.
All happening.
Just wait till they come on board. So I've just got those little rocks around the side here. Hello, is that Bernadette there? I can't see you, but I can see you've joined.
Hi.
Hi, Bernadette. I think it's probably a bit too late to join now,
Oh,
because yes, we're halfway through, so it'd be a bit hard to get you to catch up. Can I send you an email after this?
oh yes, please.
Yes, I hope you're okay today.
Yes, I'm all right.
You've
Thanks.
not had a good time. I'll email you after this, but I think if you join now, it's just you've missed too many steps.
Oh, okay.
You're quite welcome to watch,
Yeah.
but I think you'll find it hard to catch up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'll
up to
just
you.
go in next time.
Okay, I think that's probably better.
Yeah.
Yep, and I'll let you know when the next one comes up.
All right.
Okay, and I hope everything goes okay for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
So we have the soil here. We're just going to put a thin layer across, as I said, about 1 millimetre of soil. And on this side, I'm just going to put a couple of rocks there to block it. I won't be 100% successful. Some of the soil will get through, but if I can block it a bit, that's always nice, like so. So I've got my soil, my first layer. I don't want too much in there. And the next thing I do is I get my plants. And I'm going to look at my plants. And what I do is I decide where I'm going to put them. So for instance, this one's a little bit taller. It's better to put it, if they're taller, to put them towards the middle because that gives them a bit of room and they won't crash into the glass. I'm going to release a little bit of the soil from the roots. And I'm just going to place it there, but you can see it will probably flop over a lot. But I'm just going to, before I actually plant it, just think about where I'm going to put my other plants. Just get an idea, place them a bit, see where they fit. This one's a little short one, so it will fit where the glass is. It'll take a long time for that to grow big enough to crash into the glass. And then I look, I've got another little one here. This little one here, this calicho, actually, it's a baby at the moment, but potentially in a couple of years, it could be about, I don't know, 3 or 4 foot high. So obviously at some stage it will grow out of the terrarium. And if that happens, I just take them out, replant them somewhere where they've got more space, or take a cutting from them, which I showed you before how to do, and just replant the cutting back in the terrarium. So there's a little bit of gardening involved in it, but at least you don't need a lawnmower to garden. You can just fiddle around and change plants if you need to. Now this one here that keeps flopping, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to get one of my rocks, just put it in front just to prop it up like so. And so when I've decided where I'm going to put my plants, I get a little bit more soil and I just cover the roots, and that plant will keep falling over. It can be a bit tricky, but if I hold on to it, put a rock in front of it, keep putting just a bit of soil around it, not the others. I'm not worried about the other plants. It's still a bit floppy, but when it starts to put out roots and it takes root, and if I put it in front of a window, it will follow the sun. So if it's going this direction at the moment, I can turn it round and it will follow the sun, and gradually it will start to straighten up. So I'm not too worried if they're a bit floppy at the moment, because they need to put out their roots a bit to grow. And when I put the gravel layer in last, that will also help prop them up. Excuse me. So don't panic if they're flopping a bit. You can prop them up with some rocks. Sorry, I just swallowed a bit of sphagnum moss, I think. That's better. So you can prop them up with a couple of rocks. And you can cover those rocks with soil, and you'd never know. I've just got one pardon me, particular cutting here that's a little bit, it's growing towards the side a bit.
I have.
I'm gonna put that in. Has anyone got a floppy plant problem?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, if you, sorry, I'm just coughing away
Can
here.
you see, Pamela? Mine's quite tall.
Yes. I'm trying to,
Is that too tall?
I'm just going to see if I can spotlight you. It won't let me spotlight you. I'll try again. If it's too tall, it's going to, I can see a bit better now. Let me see the plant. Can you hold it up with your fingers so I can see? Which, put it, let's have a look.
Can you see it?
All right. Okay. It's got a little flower coming off it. It's a little bit dehydrated, I can see. Yes. What you can do with a plant like that, so say this was the same sort, it's not. Pardon me. Okay, I've got this one. That's a similar Echeveria plant. I'm just putting it in front of here. All I need to do, turn it to the side. I can cut it here, like so.
Sorry,
this.
you just broke off. Sorry,
Yeah,
can you just repeat what you said?
Oh, sorry. I've got the plant here. Sorry, I just cut, where's it gone? I just cut off the root and I can't see where it's gone. Oh, here you go. So like you, I have a plant here that's a bit tall. I've just cut it here. Can you see I just trimmed it there? Just cut it off, cut off the top. Have you frozen again? Sorry, you froze again. Can you hear me, Elaine?
No, I can't. I think I might have to come to exit and come in.
Yes, I think you keep cutting out. Yeah, I'll just wait for you to come back. Sorry. So yes, if you have a problem, other people as well, if your plant, you feel it's too tall, you can cut off. Here is the plant. I don't know if you saw that. You can cut off the plant to the size you want, get rid of the root like that. You can replant that somewhere else or put out lots of little baby plants. So now I have the top of my plant here, and the best thing to do is to leave it for 24 hours to dry out, but it's pretty hot and dry here. I think it should be all right. I just put that straight into the soil, and in about 4 to 6 weeks, it will start putting out its own roots. So I've just put it in here. In 4 to 6 weeks, that will put out its own roots, and you've got the plant size you want. Now, what's happened here? Are you back, Elaine? Hello, Elaine, can you hear me? Hello, Elaine?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, great. Okay. So I'm just showing you again. Here's my plant that I have. Here's, say, before I cut it. So it's in one piece here, like this. Can you see that? Can you see that, Elaine?
Sorry, I think the video. No, I think the video's frozen.
I'm still moving. Has anyone else got me frozen?
No.
No, I think it's your internet, Elaine. Everyone else, it's moving.
Okay, now I see you. Yep. Mhm.
Oh, great. Okay, so I've got my plant here. All I need to do is cut it there where I want it. Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This, with the root, I can put in a pot somewhere or put out lots of little baby plants so it's not waste. I've now got this. The best practice is to let this dry out for a day or two till it's dry, but it's pretty hot at the moment. If it was raining, I'd be more worried. And I can just put that straight into the soil where I want it, like so, and it will just put out roots. It'll take about 4 to 6 weeks for the roots to fully form, but you can replant it like that if you find it's too tall.
Right. Okay.
So you can adjust. That's the beauty of succulents too. You can adjust the height of them, and eventually this will grow taller than the terrarium. I can cut them off and replant them.
Right.
And
Okay.
so if you're finding it too tall, just give it a trim and stick it into the soil. The secret is not to let it get too wet. You need to rehydrate these plants, but they should be fine. But don't leave. For instance, sometimes when people get succulents, they put it into a jar of water to put out roots, and it will put out roots, but it's too much water, and the roots that form in water are much weaker, and when you plant them into the ground, they're not, they don't tend to work as well. So better to just cut it off like this and stick it into the ground, and then it will start to grow, and you'll get good, strong soil roots, not water roots. Okay, how's everyone else going?
Thank you, Pamela.
How's everyone else going? How's it going at Teresa's?
Mine are all done, but they're all falling over.
Sorry, say it again.
Mine are all in, but they're all floppy.
They're a bit floppy, that's okay. Once we put the next layer on, which is gravel, that will prop them up too. So once you've got your plants in position, don't worry too much about the floppiness, because once they start following the sun, they straighten up as well. So if you've got a plant that's going in one direction all the time and you want it to straighten up, every couple of days, if you just watch my hands, you just move the terrarium every couple of days like this, and eventually the plant will go straight up. So you can direct a plant just by making it follow the sun, manipulating it a bit. So I've got my plants in place, and I just need to put a little bit more soil in there around the plants, in between the plants and around the plants, like so. If when you're putting in the soil, you get it on the leaves, just brush it off with your brush. And any really awkward bits, you can use the end of your tool stick and just push through and get rid of little bits of soil that are caught up on the plant. If you can't get off little bits of it, don't worry too much, because eventually as the plant grows, the soil will fall off or be easier to get to. So I'm just brushing it with my brush just to get rid of any excess for now. And I've just put down my soil, and I'm going to put down a little bit more just to make sure the roots are covered. As long as your roots are covered, you should be okay. So I'm just putting in a little bit of soil all around the plants. And once all the roots are around the plants, give the edges a quick clean. Again, around the edge on the glass, give it a nice brush like so and a clean. And so it's ready for the next stage. So then the last layer that we put down is the gravel. And you'll find this will help you prop up the plants. This supports quite a bit of the plant when you put the last layer down. So once you've got the soil down, our next layer will be gravel. And the gravel is there, because when you put it around the plants, you can actually see the plants better against the soil. When it's against the soil, it's a bit dark. So this gravel not only looks good, it makes the plants look more prominent in the setting, but also it protects the plants. So what gravel does is it sits around the base of the plant around here. So I put gravel in and it keeps this part of the plant, the sort of trunk of the plant or the stalk or the stem or whatever you want to call it, it keeps that dry. So the reason we use gravel in this is not just for it to look good. The reason we use it is to keep the plant healthy. So that keeps the plant dry, because these are a bit, if you think of a succulent, a bit like a cat that doesn't like to have a bath. That's what succulents are like. So they don't like to have their leaves wet particularly. They like to keep nice and dry. And if we put gravel around the base, that helps the plant stay healthy. So with the gravel, sometimes when I do live classes, I turn around and I note that people put gravel all around the circle, around the periphery of the terrarium, which looks very on trend and very hip, but actually it doesn't do any good at all. It's not doing anything. So when we put the gravel down, I'm just going to get my spoon and I just start to sprinkle gravel over the soil like so, just gently so I don't crash into the plants like so. And this is where my little, if I get my piece of paper and turn it into a funnel, I just need to grab two ends, twist my hands around. If anyone's done any cake decorating, it's the same movement. And I can adjust, I'll just pull it here this way. I can adjust the whole of that. So you can see I don't want it too big, but big enough for the gravel to fit through. So I'm just making this little funnel, little cone shape, and I just put it where I want to put my gravel, get my gravel and just start feeding it through. And that way, when I put it down, it goes in between the plants, any awkward places that I can't quite reach, rather than burying my plants in gravel. So I'm just putting down some little bits of rock, and then if it starts going on top of the plants, I just push it aside with my brush very gently, because I don't want to hurt the plants. And you can see as I put gravel around these floppy plants, it will help prop them up too. So if you've still got that problem with the floppy plant, it can help just to prop them up like so. And I'm using my spoon here because I can get in there, but if I can't get into a space, then I use my little paper funnel, and I'm just going around, whoops, and I've dropped them all over the plant. So when you drop rocks inside the plant, in between the leaves, just give them a little gentle brush, like so. You can even use the brush to move the pebbles around a little if they're stray. And you can see I'm just carefully putting the gravel around. Again, you've probably got more gravel than you need for this particular terrarium, but you can put all of it down if you like, if you want a nice thick coating of gravel, or you might want extra gravel around those plants that are sort of flopping about. So I'm just putting it in here. So, and once I've put the gravel in there, you can feel you can move the plant around, tip the plant a bit with your finger, put some more gravel under its base, and that will help stand it up if you've still got some floppiness. So I'm doing that with this plant here. And the more gravel I put underneath its leaves, it's absolutely perfectly fine to put lots of gravel around it. That helps the plant stay upright better. And I'm just getting my little stick and getting rid of a bit of this little bit of soil in there. So continually just trying to get out little bits that get caught up before it's finished. Did somebody ask something just then?
No, Mum said she's finished.
Sorry?
No, Mum said she's finished.
Oh, well, that's good. Has she put her decorations in yet?
Yes, I have. Oh,
Oh my goodness, you're a Speedy Gonzales. Okay, so have you had a little look at the glass? Hold it up to the light as well, and just make sure that you've got all the little dirty bits that have gathered. I'm just putting a little bit more gravel down here. And I buried a little plant there, so I'm just going to unbury it like so. And I haven't got many plants in this one today. Of course, you can also, if you've got one with a, you can also, I can still stick one in here because I didn't plant all my plants, but I can still stick one in with its stalk down there. So you can still add a couple of plants there through the gravel if you need to. I'm just putting a bit more gravel on this side, and I'm just going to brush around. And again, when you put the gravel down, that's got a white sort of dust to it. So you might want to just brush out there. And again, pick it up, have a look at the side, how it's looking. If you've got the layers of rocks, layers of gravel, you might want to put a bit more gravel in, like so. And then everyone's got something different. I don't know which little decorations you've got. I've got a unicorn. And of course you can change it and theme it to Christmas, put other little things in there. I've had people come along who've got lots of Star Wars Lego creatures and they like to put those down. And then you've got these kind of little pebbles. I like to put those upright so they mimic a little succulent growing. And of course nothing's set in concrete. You can take these out, replace them or change them. They're quite nice things to give instead of a birthday card. You put a little happy birthday or some candles in there, and it's quite a nice little gift. So I'm just brushing off and cleaning up. I put my my ornaments in there.
everybody else's plants are so tall. Mine's all gravel. No, yours is good because mine fall over. Yeah, mine also fall over. I didn't have that big.
Is somebody still falling over? Have you put a lot of gravel around the base? I can have a look. I'll try and spotlight you. For some reason it's not spotlighting today.
It's like that big.
There we go. I can see you a bit better now. Who's having problems?
Problem. They're just small.
Where are
They
you
don't
doing?
have tiny plants.
The layering looks nice.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but my plants are tiny. They'll grow.
They grow. At the moment it's growing season, so they're going to grow quite quickly.
All right.
I'm just going to, they're all babies at the moment, and they'll grow. So the next thing I should tell you how to water them too. How's that?
Soil it. I should have added more soil. Yeah, I should have added more soil too. Oh, well. All right.
Right, okay, so the next thing is how to water them. Like I said before, they don't like to have a lot of water on their leaves. So what I do is I get my spoon and I just put a little bit of water next to them, not on them. A couple of dessert spoons is fine around the plants, like so.
Oh, I've got shells at home. I've got shells, tiny shells. I found all those shells. I think that was too big. You have that.
So if you just get a little bit of water like so and just put them around the plants, try not to get them on the leaves if you can help it. If you get one of those little syringes from the $2 shop, you know, the ones, don't spray them. Don't spray them. They don't like being wet, so it's probably not good to spray them, Teresa's group.
No, I'm putting it on the spoon.
Oh, that's okay, good. I thought you were spraying the plants.
I know.
A lot of people spray them. That will kill them pretty quick. So don't spray the actual plants. So I'm just putting a little bit of water there. Now, probably they're a little bit dry at the moment because I think I had to post them out a little bit earlier to make sure they got to you. So you could probably water them again maybe in 3 days, but normally once a week is absolutely fine. You don't need to water them more than once a week. If you hold up your terrarium like so, I'm just going to go to a picture of my face here. Hold on. There we go. If I hold it up like so, and look to the side, I can see where I've watered, I can see water that builds up in that bottom layer. That's how I know if there's too much water there. If the water comes all the way right up to the gravel, the third last layer, then it's overwatered. And what you should do is try and tip out some of that excess water. But you can see here, this is a good way so you can see how much water's down there. If they've still got water here, they probably don't need watering because the water will go upwards and leave the terrarium. It will, the condensation will make it lift and go out into the atmosphere. So the plants will get water. One way to know if your plants are dehydrated is they start to look a little bit wrinkly, like your fingers do when they're in the bath. That means they're dehydrated and they need a drink. So you can water them, but it usually takes about 4 or 5 days for the water to really take up in the leaves. So water them once, don't touch them for 3, 4, 5 days, and then look at them, and then they should have plumped up. They won't plump up immediately. It takes time for the water to go into the leaves. If you overwater your plants, and they don't like it, they'll start to become a bit like jelly. So the leaves, when you hold a leaf up to the light, you'll be able to see through it. It's kind of jelly-like and kind of goopy. That means it's got too much water in it, so you mustn't water it anymore. Sometimes that's a sign it's just gone too far and it's way too wet, and you might not be able to salvage the plant. So that's how you know if it's overwatered, underwatered, a little bit dehydrated. This one's a bit dehydrated, so a little bit wrinkly. But as I said, just water it, leave it for a few days, and the water will be taken up into the leaves. Places to put them, never put them in the bathroom. The bathroom is the most common place people think to put a succulent plant, but actually that kills them. They really hate humidity. Also the kitchen. Sometimes if a kitchen's very steamy, if there's lots of cooking going on that's wet, that's too humid for them and they don't like it. They like to be in a sunroom. I'm in a veranda at the moment with lots of sun coming through. They need a lot of light. So the big thing they need is lots and lots of light. If they don't get light, they'll struggle for a while. They'll grow very thin and tall and put out leaves looking for light. But if they don't get enough light, that's one of their big problems. Too much water, not enough light, they're the two big killers. In the summer, if you're somewhere where it's like 40 degrees and the sun's coming through the window and you've got your terrarium by the window, just be careful that the glass, the sunlight doesn't hit the glass and hit the plants, because it's like using a magnifying glass and it burns the leaves. So put your plants a few foot away back from the window, so they get the general light for a nice sunny room. Light bulbs won't do it. Light bulbs are only about 25%. Even if it feels like a big bright room, light bulbs only give you 25% of sunlight, so it's not enough light. You can get growing lamps if you're in a basement. It looks like where your mum's standing, there's lots of light coming in.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect spot to put it. Not right by the glass, but just a couple of feet away from the glass. Perfect place. That table where you are is probably a perfect place to put it, but not in that corner where the lady with the white t-shirt is. Behind you, too dark. Just behind you, that sort of section there, it might be the kitchen or something. That's too dark. So towards the window is perfect. You can put them outside. They're quite happy to be outside, but be careful that you don't put them somewhere the rain will fill it up, because then you'll get terrarium soup, and you can empty it out. And do be careful of snails. If you put it on a balcony, the snails will eat it overnight. They love succulents, snails and slugs. I'm continually in the garden stomping on them.
Any snails eat your succulents, have we, Zoe?
Sorry, where are you, Zoe?
We haven't had many snails eat the succulents at home, have we?
No.
Where are you?
Warrenora Heights we live at.
Do you get a lot of rain?
Oh, just normal Sydney rain, yeah.
All right, okay. Well, normally after the rain is when the snails come out. So if it's raining, it's a really dangerous time.
We've got a blue tongue in the backyard. We don't know.
That's probably why. That's probably what it is. I've got little skinks, but I think they just get the baby snails. But a blue tongue is the perfect thing. Definitely, they eat a lot of snails. So Elaine, are you going to keep yours on the veranda there, or?
I haven't decided. Probably inside, I'm thinking, but
Okay.
like.
I would leave them just on the veranda while they recover from being dehydrated a bit, just to let them have air so they don't get damp and they're just kind of just right. Maybe in a week or so, bring them in once they've plumped up and they're feeling good. I would suggest. Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah. Zoe, do you want to grab your show your propagation to Pamela?
Oh yes, I'd love to see your propagations.
Showing us, you know, the one you've got inside. She was showing us how she propagated something before.
Oh, fantastic. I'll try and spotlight it so I can see it on Zoe when she comes back. Fantastic. So Zoe, a bit of a succulent nut.
Oh yeah, that's been her ISO project.
Oh, fantastic.
Never done any before, so.
Right. Well, they're a lot of fun to grow because you do get good results with succulents.
Yeah, it's not.
Look, I'm just going to spotlight you, Zoe. Let's have a little look. I can see that. Oh, very nice. That looks great. What is that plant? I can't. Oh, that's gorgeous. But it's not a succulent, is it? It's like a pelargonium or something. That's beautiful. Looks lovely.
Yeah. So she asked me when to plant it. I said, I don't know.
Hold it up again. Let's have a look. Right, you're doing it on cotton wool?
Paper towel.
On a paper towel. Probably soon, because the roots that you get when it's very wet like that are not as strong as when you put it in soil. So try and get it into soil as soon as you can, because sometimes you can propagate those for a long time and they've got these wonderful white root systems, and then you put them in the soil and it's too much, they can't cope and they quickly die. So try and get it in. Do a few spares is probably a good idea, and just experiment a bit, because sometimes those wet roots just aren't as strong as normal roots.
Okay.
So
you can, some plants like spiderwort, different types of plants, you can just keep in a jar and let them keep devil's, I forgot what it's called, devil's ivy. You can put them into a bowl of water and it will last for years, maybe 2 or 3 years, growing out of the water. You don't just put a bit of fertilizer in it and it will keep going for years, so you never need to put them in soil. But so you can experiment a bit with that too, because that's quite nice. You've got the glassware and the plant growing and the roots. Looks great.
Zoe had one that she pulled out of the drain at Mum's place and had it in water, but every time we plant it, it dies.
Yes.
So out of the soil and put it back in the water and it grows again.
Yeah, that's right, because the root system's probably very weak from being propagated in water.
Okay.
That's probably the reason. That's what usually happens with root, I don't know what you call it, water roots.
Yeah, okay.
It's not quite right.
Okay.
Okay, have you got a question, Elaine?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
So in terms of this moss and the activated charcoal and stuff, if I was going to make another terrarium, where would be the best place to get the supplies?
Well, I buy mine wholesale, so I have to buy them by the 100, so that's no good, which is a place called Koch & Co. But, you can get these in most garden supply shops. You can get glassware like this. I think Target often does lots of different lines of, is it Kmart or Target? It's either Kmart or Target. Often do some really nice glass bowls, different sizes, different shapes, some with kind of wooden stands, and not very expensive, quite nice.
Okay.
So I would recommend have a look online on their site. They have quite a good range of unusual ones.
Okay.
And
what about
the
moss and the charcoal?
The moss and the charcoal. Any Bunnings or garden centre will have moss, charcoal. You can get the little plants as well. I think they're called bottle babies is one of the sorts they have. You want small ones. You can't. Yeah. They grow so quickly that you need to start off small, let them grow, then replace as you go along. And Bunnings does them for about $5-6 a plant.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks.
I would suggest propagating your own, because you can get quite a few even just off the leaves. So it's definitely worth trying.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, not from me. Thank you.
No? Okay, Zoe, are you feeling well?
Yeah, all good.
Good. Okay. All right. If there's no more questions, everyone just hold them up for a second. Let me just have a quick look. That looks nice. Oh, very nice. Very nice. The layering looks very good. It's hard to cut. Normally, for some reason, Zoom's not letting me look at each individual thing big, only
Small.
only small, so it's quite hard to see, but they're looking good. As I said, if you've got any problems, just send me an email and I can answer questions. I'll send you a handout that will list all the different layers and the way to do it if you've forgotten how. And Zoe, I'll try and get a video to you of the class at the end so you can see the bit that you missed at the beginning. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.